Reach your impossible with the AI-powered Legion 5i. Lenovo Legion.
Speed thrills. Precision wins. Every corner, every stop, every second. Calculated. Can you handle the pressure? F1 Clash. Download for free from the App Store and Google Play.
All right then, it's day 2 here at DreamHack Birmingham, and our drivers are getting geared up as we turn our attention to Japan and the mighty track of Suzuka. As I mentioned, 50,000 spectators will be here at DreamHack Birmingham over the next 3 days. And we turn our attention to the F1 Sim Racing Championship 2026. Yesterday, in Event 1, we had the race around China. Pole to victory for, well, those guys. It was Freddie Rasmussen. Can he do it again, back to back? And let me tell you, the Red Bull guys are seeming very happy right now. But we turn our attention to Suzuka. And don't panic, it's not me, Tom Deacon, all by myself. I've got a fabulous team to lead us through all of the action.
Yeah, don't panic. So, hi, welcome. I'm Nicola Hume. I'm going to be chatting to the drivers a little bit later on, seeing how the race goes. I am joined right now on the stage in front of a crowd here at DreamHack by our commentating team. So we have the marvellous George Morgan and the rather wonderful Kai Bacchini. How are you both doing?
Very good.
Yeah?
All the better to be with you. Honest to
shut
God.
your face.
You put a big aura of sunshine upon us.
I paid him to say that. It's fine. So we're excited. I mean, so we're here at DreamHack. This is a big live event. And I have to say, from my perspective, being part of this for the first time, it's actually really satisfying. And I think for the fans that are also here as well, to actually watch commentary come out of your face. Now, normally, we don't get to see that.
No.
When you're watching at home, if you're watching at home right now, you annoyingly won't get to see it as much. But we get to see you actually live doing commentary right on this stage.
Yeah, we feel sorry for each and every single one of them. No, honestly, it's great. And obviously you get that access with sim racing, which is wonderful, because usually at racetracks we're tucked away in commentary boxes somewhere up in the grandstands or above. So yeah, it's a little bit of a different aura, but we love it. It's got that electric feeling. The driver's given us a lot of action. We enjoyed a spectacular qualifying session earlier today with some spicy stuff and some dismissals from Q1 and Q2 that certainly shocked us all, Kai, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest shock was definitely Jarno Opmeer, 3-time champion. He's going to be starting a little bit further down the grid, and that is going to be so detrimental for him here in Suzuka. Suzuka, track position is so important, and that is why every driver was so desperate in qualifying to make their way up to the front end of the grid. He said it in his interview with you, Nicola. Overtaking's difficult around this track. He's got a lot of work to do if he wants to finish in the top 10.
He does. I mean, it was a very wet quali, but we're going to have a little look at the race calendar now, because obviously we're here in Suzuka today. Yesterday we were in China. Tomorrow we are over to Bahrain as we welcome back to the desk the wonderful Tom Deacon as well, who's going to help us talk through it. But the race calendar today in Japan, I mean, we haven't raced here for about 4 years in esports, right, George?
It's been a while. Last time was 2022 and won by Nicholas Longay. Though what I will say, and this is something that actually you brought up earlier on today, Freddie Rasmussen not off the podium in any start that we have had here, including the 2 wins back in 2019 when we had the inaugural event for the F1 sim racing at Suzuka. Always great to have it, and we had it the following year in 2020. It's a place we love to go.
We do indeed. It's great to be back on the desk. You're so good over there. And the live DreamHack moment. I was tempted to just maybe, I might skip the race around Japan. There was no doubt I was ever going to do that. If you weren't with us yesterday, we explained the format of this competition for F1 Sim Racing 2026. 9 teams, 12 events. we will have the second event today as we go racing around Japan. And importantly, as I can see a lot of eyes looking towards the right of the screen, $750,000 prize pool. How is that broken down? Well, we can show you the top 5 teams. This is how the money is distributed out. So important. And Nicola, yesterday you got the trophies back off Jarno Opmeer, your reigning champion, and Oracle Red Bull Racing. And I tell you what, yeah, there was a lot of pulling, but they were definitely.
I didn't yank it, but it feels like a very stressful moment to actually hand back your trophy while you're live on camera. That must have been a really tricky moment for them to kind of go, oh yeah, I won it. Oh no, wait, it's not mine anymore. Now I need to earn it back.
Yes, and that is what they're doing, and they're doing a damn good job about getting the top spot on that prize money. Let's look at the highlights then earlier on. Top stuff here from the guys in quali, and we were all shocked. We were going quali in the rain.
Yes, I mean Q1 it was very, very damp, and obviously every single driver was looking to, supplant the superiority heading through to Q2 as well. Remember, top 15 could only move through to the next session. We lost the bottom 3. Aston Martin, I have to say, really impressive to kick things off. Jan Halliday giving us a little bit of spice inside the first session. Elsewhere, Thomas Ronhaar back to what we believe to be more of a level footing. We eventually saw him in Q3 flourishing, of course, but there's more to come from this Mercedes team. I spoke to Julian Klaffenbach earlier on as well, and he definitely felt that there was more that he could gain to support his teammate. Freddie Rasmussen, though, was impervious, absolutely sensational. Joris Krozen and Tamas Gal not able to quite manufacture the same results that Joris Krozen had the day before at China. They both fell away in Q2 as well. Otis Lawrence, though, back again here with Alpine, a better qualifying performance than we witnessed in China last time out at Shanghai. Jake Benham and Alfie Butcher once again on song. Benham a little bit better than his own teammate, Alfie Butcher, on this occasion, and so surely they can work together to try and make things happen. But as we move through to Q3, we saw the rain dissipate as it did towards the tail end of Q2. Of course, the big surprise was the departure of Jarno Opmeer after jumping onto the soft tyres a little bit prematurely, and he wasn't overly happy with that decision to move onto that compound. Would have preferred to be on that intermediate tyre. Tom Manley, who electrified us in Q2 as well, into Q3 after going from no lap time at all to suddenly punching himself into second place. He could not quite do the same in Q3 though, ended up towards the very bottom. P10 is of course where he's starting, but in terms of what happened up at the top, it was all Freddie Rasmussen and indeed Otis Lawrence. That complexion of Red Bull and Alpine certainly seems to be the foundations for this championship so far.
Take a breath, George Morgan. We need that energy for the 50% race. You broke it down beautifully. You look at that as our qualification then for Suzuka Grand Prix. We've talked about Jarno Opmeer. Any surprises or any exciting sort of 2 driver operators in the top 10 there for you?
Oh, I think it's great to see Thomas Ronhaar back on top form. The Mercedes driver's a little bit of an off day yesterday, but straight back where we'd expect him at the sharp end of the field. The Dutchman, obviously, as we've mentioned before, the lowest qualifying position on average in F1 sim racing history. Also, great job from the Aston Martin driver. Great to see Ruben Pedreño getting his mark in Q3 as well.
Because it didn't start well yesterday.
Exactly.
No, and a new driver heading to Aston Martin. I was curious to know, like, you obviously got 2 drivers from the same team, both in the top 10. That's going to really affect the strategy potentially today, Nicola. And the fact that Alfie Butcher is up there and he's got his nemesis, is not his sort of good luck charm, is in the crowd here. Some drivers have their parents here.
Yes, his dad's here, which I was having a chat with Alfie Butcher earlier, and I went, is he a good luck charm for you? And he said, absolutely not, which was wonderfully awkward. And then I saw his dad afterwards, and he looked at me and went, oh, well. I went, look, I tried.
Yeah.
What can I say? But it's lovely to have this big live experience. There's lots of families here to support their teams, which is just incredible. And I think we could see more from Alfie today. I've just got a feeling there was a little twinkle in his eye when I was speaking to him earlier.
Well, we've always said about Alfie, he shocked the F1 sim racing world when he was driving for Haas and was just incredible. Pushing, got his first win that year, then moved to McLaren. We're looking at the drivers there, but they can work in tandem together to sort of try and get up there in the team's championship.
Yeah, I mean, you've got 2 young drivers looking to prove themselves. Jake Benham arguably in the same position. He was teammates with Danny Berejney at Mercedes, but prior to that, Jarno Opmeer. And obviously, he is a young man with a lot of talent, does pack a punch. both him and Alfie Butcher, to a certain degree, are cut from the same cloth as vibrant young talents, and I'm sure on their day can pull off a stellar result or two. Butcher, certainly, statistically, the more accomplished driver. I look back warmly at his sensational victory in 2023-24 in Abu Dhabi to end the season. It was spectacular to behold. Obviously, a little far apart from that, but being at McLaren, new scenery. Lucas Blakely's gone now, so these two need to position themselves as the hierarchy at the Papaya team.
Kai, we're looking at the Alpine drivers. They're also both in the top 10. What have you made of the Alpine drivers today?
Well, it's a much better day for them as a team. Danny Beresnay asserting himself into that Q3 position and contending up at the front end once again. But Otis Lawrence, I think it's fair to say, one of the most stunning talents on the grid, and so young as well. So much can be bred out of this driver, Otis Lawrence. It's going to be exciting to see what he's able to do today. Maybe a little bit of a rash decision in the race yesterday in China, going for a move that wasn't quite there on Jarno Opmeer, paid the price of that, but I'm sure he will have learned from his mistakes and right his wrongs today.
Yeah, 12 thousandths of a second off pole position.
Yep.
Not much more he could do. Those are the fine margins that you will see as the action comes your way very shortly. Yesterday, we heard from Franco Colapinto and Pierre Gasly. I wonder who else today can be giving us some messages of encouragement.
Hi, Jarno and Freddie.
Hi, Freddie and Jarno. It's Isaac, live from Shanghai.
Yeah, just wanted to wish you, of course, the very best for the season ahead.
Wanted to wish you good luck ahead of the season. And yeah, I'll be watching closely. Have fun.
I'm sure you guys are going to do well. I know that, I know that Andre has prepped you guys very well and hard. So I'm looking forward to it. And I can't wait to see what you guys can do.
Hi guys, we know that this weekend you'll be starting the F1 Sim Racing Championship.
Good luck for the beginning of the season and see you soon.
I'll tell you what, I don't know how cold it was where they recorded that for Ferrari, but those coats looked very warm indeed.
Yes, they
and
did.
Isaac, you need to get from Shanghai to Suzuka. That's where you are actually racing in real life right
Pretty
now.
sure he's there now, but it's a wonder, isn't it? Because obviously they were racing this morning, they were in qualifying this morning over in Japan themselves, and will they actually be up? I reckon Max is up and watching this.
Absolutely, and you mentioned there's someone, Andre, can you break that down? Because just to give a sense of, we're talking about the drivers, but there's a whole team around them.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the chap that Max was alluding to was Andre Kunschmann, who has been the locker room leader at Red Bull, obviously helping his team along, has been in that role for such a long period of time. Obviously, working with the team, formerly known Team Redline, now known as Verstappen Sim Racing, as they have been lately, and I'm sure many of you saw Max during the Nordschleife extravaganza, or the Nürburgring extravaganza, I should say, not too long ago in the NLS. It was fantastic to watch. Unfortunately, the result didn't quite go to plan because they were stripped of the race win, which was a shame.
Wasn't going to mention that,
but I think it speaks a lot about Verstappen's racing mentality. And it goes for the sim racing team as well, and it drip feeds into Red Bull. And Andre Kunschmann, it's his role to provide that.
And I tell you what, when you talk about mentality, they are definitely up there. Right, now, talking of our friends from Red Bull, let's have a look at today's circuit that we'll be racing on. And you'll see some familiar faces taking us through one of the most demanding F1 tracks out there.
Not too shabby.
Wow, you got not too shabby from Jarno.
Yeah,
that's huge.
Thank you.
That is huge.
That's a huge accomplishment.
That is massive.
Start of a lap around Suzuka.
Isaac Hajar. Into turn one, the S's. This is going to be physical, right?
So tricky physically. And like just for the neck, going into these S's for like I don't know how many laps during the race. So tough.
And do you have to
so satisfying.
Stay off the curbs entirely as well?
Yeah, carry more minimum speed, yes.
Because I can imagine that will destabilise. Does that, in F1 Esports version of Suzuka, would that destabilise the car in the same way?
It does, but we have to use the curbs and S's just to get a little bit more rotation.
Just a bit of curve.
Yeah, just nip it a little bit, just to rotate the car. It definitely helps.
With a little kiss, and you can see the lateral G-force on the upper dashboard through the S's is very, very strong. Coming up to this tricky double left-hander, Isaac, hard to get right.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Like it's basically one long corner. to get the exit right as well for a long straight without DRS. So yeah.
And then 130R, still not a corner in these cars?
Easy flat out.
Yeah, easy flat, fine.
Maybe in the wet.
Maybe in the wet, that's true.
Then it'll be very tough, probably.
And then this final chicane is a bit tricky. Slamming on those brakes. Releasing off quite subtly as well, I like it. Can we get into the 130s? Come on. Oh, 129.9.
Yeah.
Okay, you can take that, is it?
I take it.
Not too shabby.
Not too. Wow, you got not too shabby from Jarno.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Thank you.
That is huge.
That's a huge accomplishment.
That is massive.
That is genuinely fascinating. Not too shabby. We love that. What were you just saying about Isaac Hadjar there,
Well,
George?
a lot of people might not know. Certainly the league racing community and indeed the F1 sim racing community will know that Isaac Hadjar was actually a former league racer known as IGK Zach. That was his gamer tag.
Wow.
And a multi-time race winner in league racing as well. So showing us a bit of a masterclass around this wonderful circuit.
And what can we expect on this circuit? Where are there sort of exciting areas that you're going to be watching live and across the world?
Well, we're here at the Mie Prefecture in Japan. Suzuka, of course, that has harnessed Japanese racing for such a long time, but very much the jewel in the crown as well for Japanese motorsport. And this is the strategies that the drivers will be adopting. We may see a soft tyre at some point. It is a possibility, though it will be at the start of the race if we do see one. But generally, it's medium hard, hard medium. Lap 10 to 12 is the most notable stint if you start on the medium tyres. So we may see drivers maybe break outside of that if they want to try and risk something, maybe to force a change in the race. And equally, for hard to medium, lap 14 to 19, that we might see drivers divert from that in particular. But this track in itself, Suzuka, Freddie Rasmussen a winner here, most races at Japan with 2 in both 2019 and 2020. He's achieved a podium in every single one. Of course, this track opening 63 years ago, 4.304 kilometers, 17 turns, plenty of dicey action to come.
Kai, thank you very much for that, George. When we talk about this race, some of these teams chasing Red Bull, chasing down Freddie Rasmussen, they have to be bold. And not just in the driver's stand, but also in that strategy.
Yeah, strategy is going to be such a key thing around this circuit. Suzuka, we know track position is so important, and those early stages of the race, asserting yourself into that track position, picking up the places early on is going to be very, very important. As you mentioned, George, soft tyres could come into factor in this race. If they are, it's going to be at the beginning when you can get the most out of those soft tyres, most likely boxing around lap 8 onto a hard compounder tyre. Degradation as the race goes on is going to become more stable, so it'll be interesting to see how the drivers develop with that.
Well, listen, it's set up perfectly. Freddie Rasmussen is on pole. Will he take a pole to victory? We'll have to wait and see. George Morgan, Kai Bacchini, Nicola Hume. We will catch up with you in a little bit.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much, Tom. We now look ahead to our starting grid from back to front. Joni Tormela in his first start with Racing Bulls back again with the team. Looking bullish anyway. 18th place, started from the back alongside John Evans from Scuderia Ferrari in 17th place. We move onwards with Alvaro Carreton in his first start for Williams, his 8th season consecutively with the team from Grove. Julian Klaffenbach looking for a stirring performance in his second start for Mercedes in 15th on the 8th row of the grid. We then move onwards to Jarno Opmeer, a disappointing performance in Q2 after moving on to the soft tyres at the very end of the session. It did not quite work out. Starting at Aston Martin for the first time, Jan Halliday, the Czech driver, 13th on the grid, 7th row. He'll be looking to cause a stir himself after an impressive Q2 display at the start. Just could not quite make it happen towards the very end. P12 for Tamas Gal at Haas, lining up alongside his teammates who was spectacular yesterday. Joris Krozen unable to rediscover that same magic that saw him inside the top 10, performing with major points in his back pocket. We head inside the top 10 now this time as well. This is where the points are won and lost. Tom Manley, of course, creeping up after a 0-2 fantastic in Q2. Starts alongside Alfie Butcher in the McLaren, looking for a big jump as well. Inside that 4th row, it's Daniel Berejne from Alpine. He'll be starting alongside Ruben Pedreño of Aston Martin in his first start with the team. We then move in to 6th place. Jake Benham will line up alongside Thomas Ronhaar. Much better from Ronhaar, now with the Mercedes team from Brackley. We now head up to the 2nd row. It's Ismail Fassi for Ferrari alongside former Ferrari man Nicolas Longue, looking to once again score some big points for the Grove team. Front row, we have Otis Lawrence, though, starting alongside Nemesis, Freddie Rasmussen. Alpine and Red Bull meet again here at Suzuka. So there we have it, folks. We have now seen our grid. We now move through to the start-finish line. Lots on the line here. No concerns of weather, at least for now. Blue skies are plenty. And for the second time this season in 2026, with all 5 lights lit. Oh, we're going to put pedal to the metal, and it is go, 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 but we've had some jump starts. Alvaro Carreton and Freddie Rasmussen. Looks like they've got it wrong, and Nicolas Longuet the same. Massive drama here in Japan already. Our championship leader coming into this race start, now seemingly with a problem. Otis Lawrence down in 3rd, though. Then further back, Ismail Fassi, who sits in 4th. Obviously, Otis Lawrence, who left the line in the appropriate time frame, losing in position to Longuet as... well, obviously due through process of that jump start. Ismail Fassi in 4th, Jake Benham 5th, Ronha down in 6th, Kai.
Yeah, Rasmussen, Longuet and Carreton already spiraling down to the back of the grid, putting themselves onto the back foot. And this is the last thing you would expect from the 18 greatest sim drivers in the world. A jump start, it's a rookie error. Not what you would expect here, but the pressure in this environment here at DreamHack, the atmosphere just building up on the drivers. You're bound to make a mistake at that point, but a mistake of that magnitude will cost them.
And with that jump start, it means 10-second time penalties will go to Freddie Rasmussen, Nicolas Longuet and Alvaro Carreton. So high drama, high stakes, as we said. That can happen at Suzuka. It has indeed happened this time, and we're only on the opening lap. Incredible stuff. Coming through towards 130R for the first time, now heading down towards the Casio Triangle. It's Rasmussen on track, Longuet. Then comes Lawrence, Fassi, Benham, Ronha, Berejnay, Pedreño, Butcher, Manley. That's your top 10. DRS now enabled as we move on to lap 2.
I've just had word in ear from race control that the jump starts are being investigated. So was it a mechanical issue? Was it an issue in the game? We're going to find out soon. But these penalties are being investigated, but for the time being, they stand.
They do. Well, certainly what we see on screen for now is what we will work with, but you never know. The stewards actively working behind the scenes, just looking at the issue to see whether there are any further developments we can explore. There's Thomas Ronha, who started 5th on the grid, obviously now 6th, just in behind Jake Benham, and looking for a huge recovery. Obviously, speaking to Julian Klaffenbach, as I mentioned, obviously not happy with his positioning, but at the very least, Mercedes have a chance with the driver inside the top 10. Danny Berejnay, who's up a spot as well ahead of Ruben Pedreño. Let's talk a little bit about tyres. Looks like we're not going to see a soft tyre at all in this particular race. We got mediums that are spread in across the top 5 with a hard tyre of Thomas Ronha, so going against the grain of those higher up the order. So expect him to finish quick later into the race. That's a strategy that could work for Ronha.
Yeah, and all of our top 5 starting on those medium tyres. Ronha starting on the hard tyre. I'm surprised so many drivers out of the grid actually started on those hard compounded tyres, because as we know, the hard tyre, slower to warm up, and it's a big grip deficit early on in the race in a track that's so crucial for track position early on. Early doors is where you're going to make that benefit. So starting on the hard, you would think in theory wouldn't be an ideal solution, but we'll have to see what happens here. Will the overcut be strong? Japan and Suzuka as a circuit is small enough that the undercut is still possible, but it's a fine margin and a small gap that the drivers would have to hit.
Well, Ismail Fassi, we're currently riding on board with, he is outside the scope of DRS, 1.5 seconds currently back from Longuet, so 5 tenths beyond where he needs to be, in fact nearly 6 tenths away from DRS as it stands, and that's what's all important. Notice Lawrence just clocking every move that Ismail Fassi makes. Should those penalties currently stand, then as we're seeing it on track, Ismail Fassi would inherit the race win if it was to finish like this, but obviously those penalties being investigated by the stewards. Otis Lawrence now heading into the heavy braking zone at the hairpin. Will now look to feather that throttle and burst out, and then through towards 200R, take the elevation rise up towards Spoon Curve, where he will then decline down through towards 130R and into the Casio Triangle chicane. Further back, Jake Benham 6 to 7 tenths away. That gap pretty much samey, hasn't really grown or indeed closed up. Further down, of course, we have Tom Manley still holding his own in 10th. The 2 Haas drivers of Tamas Gal and Joris Krozen unmoved for now. Tamas Gal still remains 11th, but Krozen didn't get the best of launches. He's currently down in P12. That's 2 places down from where he started in particular.
Not ideal there for the Haas driver. When we were on board with Otis Lawrence there, you can see just loading on the lock into the hairpin there, trying to get the car rotated desperately and gain as much time as possible. But around Suzuka, very high tyre degradation. You need to be careful, and the tyre reality at Suzuka, it's a very strong clockwise circuit, so the front left tyre is going to be under constant load. Drivers are going to have to monitor that, and I'm sure the engineers will also be monitoring that and keeping an eye on what that is like, and that will make a huge incident on the strategy as well. We're having a replay of the restart here, George.
Yeah, we're just going to take a look at this now. You see Caraton getting a big run from the back of the grid. He wasn't alone, of course, because Freddie Rasmussen and Nicholas Longuet both receiving penalties. It was side by side between Ron Ha and Jake Benham. Of course, Croson was then dropped to P12 later on. It really was quite volatile coming through the first few corners, but luckily enough, the drivers kept it all measured and in line. No thrills or spills, but obviously the big moment, the big issue, is those penalties. We will wait and see as to whether we get any news on that. Otis Lawrence, though, still clocking Ismail Fassi right now. Fastest lap in the hands of one Danny Berejnay at the moment, who is currently sat just over 6 to 7 tenths away, with Thomas Ronha also in that same gap behind. Ruben Pedreño in the top 10 with the Aston Martin team. Jan Halliday in his first start also down in 13th place. Of course, if we look at the way it's stacked as well for the likes of Thomas Ronha in 7th, of course, if you remember, pole sitter from last season, Kai, he was actually runner-up to Nicholas Longuet last season.
Yeah, and Longuet did a great job at winning that race, because Suzuka is not an easy circuit to win at all. Suzuka often isn't won by having the best plan. It's won by adapting when the race changes in front of you and being able to be in that position. At Suzuka, you don't control the race, you respond to it.
Of course, when I say last season, I mean the last time we raced around this particular circuit at Japan, which was, incidentally, back in 2022, his debut season with Haas, incidentally. We're now riding on board with Jake Benham as he rises up through towards Dunlop Curve, and then we'll move towards the two flying right-handers, of course, the Degner section, which will then tease you up with a run out of turn 10 in towards the hairpin, the heavy braking zone. No movement so far in terms of on-track racing in the racing laps that we've had, but generally speaking, they'll want to focus on the strategy element and then maybe later pull the pin for the second half of the race. So Otis just managing the tyres at the moment. Remember, he's on the medium tyre. We mentioned that Thomas Ronha has gone the alternative route on the hard tyres initially. And of course, further down, we've got medium tyres down to 8th. Alfie Butcher, and then we have Tom Manley as well further back, also on the hards. It'd be interesting to see whether he can manufacture, or those two can manufacture something inside that top 10 as well. Further back, Tamas Gal down in 11th on the mediums, needs a big run in this first stint because otherwise it's going to be a struggle. Joris Krozen on the hards, he has a chance to manufacture something, maybe a top 10 points. The way it is stacked for Haas, I'm not so excited about Tamas Gal at the moment, but there is potential for Joris Krozen in the second half of the race.
Yeah, there's chances aplenty, and talking about chances, Nicholas Longuet is going to get himself into the lead of the race right now, but as we mentioned, the net race lead has changed as well. Otis Lawrence is going to make his way past Ismail Fassi, and I was going to come in and mention this moment. I had another update from race control. The stewards have investigated, they've looked at these penalties, and the word is they have no reason to believe that these penalties are incorrect. So the 10-second penalty stands.
I can't remember the last time we had a 10-second grid penalty, or certainly a 10-second penalty off the start of a race in F1 sim racing. That is truly phenomenal, it has to be said. So, groundbreaking stuff here at Japan. Certainly fireworks on show. No reason to remove the penalties. It means that Nicholas Longuet and Freddie Rasmussen will both need to, at the very least, pull away by 10 seconds for the rest of the field. I can tell you that he's 2 seconds away from Otis Lawrence at the moment is Freddie Rasmussen. But obviously Ismail Fassi licking his wounds after being overtaken by Lawrence earlier on in this very lap. Nicholas Longuet doing the same to take the on-track race lead, but obviously the net race leader is Otis. As we now watch them make their way through towards 130R. Now, this is the replay of the move as they made their way down through towards the first corner. We saw Longuet make the move for the lead, but this is the net lead that we're looking at here now. Ismail Fassi had no defence, and around the outside went Otis Lawrence into third place. But with the penalty standing, that could be the win.
Long way round of first corner, front left under full load. It's a great move there from Otis Lawrence to get that one done, and also crucial to try and break away and get himself a bit of an advantage over Ismail Fassi. Take advantage of the penalties in front of him. That's what he will have to do if he wants to win this race. Just keep a calm and steady head on his shoulders. Try not to push too hard. He needs to remember that the drivers in front are virtually not in front of him at that point, which is so hard to comprehend.
Yeah, absolutely right. Jake Benham could be on the cusp as well of some, a big result here. Obviously chasing down a potential first podium in F1 sim racing in its World Championship. As we now watch them make their way through the Degner section, now heading up through towards the heavy braking zone at the hairpin bends. Nicholas Longe and Rasmussen, no doubt they're going to be very disappointed with how things have unfolded, but obviously if you do jump the start, you are going to get penalised. Otis Lawrence down in third, though, will have every chance of taking his first race win of the season. A huge moment for any driver in pursuit of a world championship. And we mentioned how prepared Alpine were coming into the series this year. With Danny Berejnay behind the wheel alongside Otis, you've got a lovely mixture of young talent along with experienced an experienced mindset, an experienced head who knows the series through and through. Danny Berejnay is that man, the Hungarian, as they make their way down through towards the Casio Triangle once more. Still, at the moment, the fastest lap currently being honed in by Ruben Pedreño, down in 8th place as they come out of the final corners at the Casio Triangle and then through across the line to begin their next lap. And this time we are on lap 8 of 27. It's still Longe and Rasmussen on track. The gap now expanding again. They know they have to break that 10 seconds and reduce as much damage as possible in terms of how the result is going to stack, because what they're trying to do essentially, reduce the damage.
But 10 seconds is just such a huge margin to pull out over other drivers that are on the exact same pace level that you are. That's almost half a pit stop that these drivers need to pull out. And Nicholas Longe and Freddie Rasmussen, surely this penalty is playing on their mind whilst they're driving around. They need to focus on the track in front of them. But the last thing that they can do is over push the cars, start making more mistakes, because that will often creep in once the drivers start doubting themselves and letting that 10-second penalty affect them mentally. The best thing that they can do is forget that 10-second penalty even exists and just focus on the race at hand.
Well, I can tell you, it got worse for Alvaro Carreton. He's actually got 13 seconds now, so he's achieved another penalty on top of the 10 that he's already received. I'm not sure what lap that was on, but more misery going to the Williams man in his first start back in his 8th season consecutively with Williams. As now we watch them come through the final corners here on this racetrack. Lap 8 of 27. Longe and Rasmussen in tandem as they come down in towards the heavy braking zone. Ismail Fassi creeping closer to the back of Otis Lawrence once more. Now, obviously, they might want to battle over who leads coming into the pits. And indeed, we are going to see the pit stops anyway unfold. And instead, it looks like we're going to see Jake Benham jumping out first. Otis Lawrence also going for an early stop. So now we're already seeing the pits come through. So like we said, lap 8 to 12, they've come in bang on lap 8.
Yeah, no surprise there, and I think a very smart decision from the Alpine team as well. Otis Lawrence pulls into the pit lane to try and cover off that undercut as fast as possible, but Danny Berejnay, the other Alpine driver that was in a competitive position, will stay out on the circuit, and from that we can judge how strong the undercut actually is on those tyres. Obviously, both the Alpine drivers started on the medium compound. Around this Suzuka circuit, the hard tyre is often stronger than expected, but to make the undercut work, your out lap and your push lap needs to be very strong, and Otis Lawrence needs to focus on this perfect out lap if he wants to make the undercut work.
Absolutely. Well, I can tell you that currently on our screens it's Danny Berejnay with the fastest lap of the race. We're currently riding on board here with Nicholas Longe, who now charges down the straight through towards 130R. Very soon he'll be at the Casio Triangle chicane. Now the big question is, will Berejnay box the following lap? Obviously they couldn't afford to double stack, because obviously they would lose time in that instance. So Berejnay, the best thing he could probably do is come in the immediate lap afterwards, just to follow suit with his teammate. That way, like you rightly said, Kai, we can measure just how much of a gain they will make. And indeed it will be Rasmussen coming in, Longe doing the same. They'll aim to avoid another penalty. Berejnay, I think, staying out, is he? Yes, Berejnay staying out on track, so they're going to continue another lap for the Alpine team.
Okay, pushing a bit further is Danny Berejnay, but this is going to be a great marker to see if the undercut is working around here in Suzuka. Otis Lawrence, before coming into the pit lane, was behind Nicholas Longe and Freddie Rasmussen, but once the drivers re-emerge, where will he be? Still under pressure from Ismail Fassi, not what he would have been wanting down into turn 1. The Ferrari man gets himself into the net lead of the race. The undercut not as strong as we expected. Rasmussen and Longe still come out in front, Yes, the gap has been brought down a little bit, but track position is the most important thing here. Ismail Fassi getting himself in front of Otis Lawrence, a track notoriously difficult to overtake on. The opportunities are going to be few. You need to take advantage of it.
Well, we've had more overtakes than we saw in China yesterday, so this is it. This is what Suzuka's capable of, and indeed, Ismail Fassi has actually brought the gap down to 1.2 seconds. It was actually 1 second between Fassi and Longay. Further up as well. So they're starting to condense a little bit. Otis Lawrence, I'm sure, quite happy just to allow this to unfold. He is still in touching distance of Ismail Fassi's Ferrari. You see the rear light blinking, suggesting that he's trying to save the battery at the moment as they now cruise through over Spoon Curve and then back down once again. They'll meet 130R once more and then head on to lap 11 of 27. Still nowhere near the halfway point just yet. Still plenty more action to come, more pit stops to come as well. The highest recorded pit stop laid down by Frederick Rasmussen. He is currently sat 13th, but remember the penalty factor is going to be huge come the end of this race, and it's being exacerbated now as Fassi closes the gap even more. But at the moment, in fact, Fassi losing a little bit of time coming out of the Casio Triangle. It's now 1.5 seconds between them. Once more, we see the pairing of Otis Lawrence and Fassi heading down in towards turn 1 at the first corner. And then coming out of turn 2, they'll then climb the hill, the snake section, where they'll then dance in between each of the curves before hitting the heights of the Dunlop corner and then hitting the Degners. So far, so good, though, for Otis Lawrence, bidding to become a race winner once more. Of course, he managed to pull things off last season as well. 2 against his name, and in total 3 podiums. I'm sure, though, more will be on the equator.
Ismail Fassi at the moment looking on such strong suit as he's just perfected the adaptability, awareness and execution under pressure that is needed to be a victor around this Suzuka circuit. Otis Lawrence, though, will try to overturn that in any way that he can. Still within DRS range, so still within a good chance of getting that moved on. But unlike other circuits where we see 2 or 3 DRS zones, around Suzuka, it's only 1, and it's only down the main straight, which isn't even a long straight, so to say.
No, not really. I mean, obviously, we saw the China straight yesterday, which is one of the longest ones you'll see on this calendar. Yeah, obviously, the 130R being in between. I mean, I know we say they kind of looking back at the Red Bull content piece we saw earlier on, they were saying, oh, 130R, is it a corner? Obviously, Jarno saying in the rain, it is a corner, and indeed it is a corner. There's kink in the course, and it's called 130R. But there we have it, as we now watch them make their way down. Danny Berejnay coming, is he coming into the pits? Yes, he is. So Danny Berejnay in the box as well. More pit stops now beginning to unfold. So those now started to depart off the medium tyres. We've got 2 left out on track at the moment. Ruben Pedreño, who is continuing around in 2nd place right now. And then we have Joni Tormela, who also sits inside the top 10, 9th place right now, but it won't be long before we see others spill onto it as well. Alvaro Carreton also now on a fresh set of mediums as it stands.
Yeah, but also on 16 seconds of penalties now.
Seconds.
Yeah, the race just going from bad to worse. It can't get any worse for Alvaro Carreton, and I think this will be a race that will have to be forgotten in his memory. Not the race he would have been wanting to return for in his Williams colours. Obviously been with the Williams team ever since he made his debut in the F1 Sim Racing Championship, but Japan 2026 can be scraped off the board.
Yeah. It looks like this will be one to forget for Alvaro Carreton. It's been a long while since he's tasted a podium place. Obviously taken 3 in his history, 2 pole positions. Like I said, we look back at Spielberg in 2020 as now we see another pit stop. Ruben Pedreño now looking to remove those medium tyres and move on to a set of hards you can only fathom. Joni Tormela, I'm not sure whether he's followed suit just quite yet. I don't think he has. He's continuing around the track. Obviously seemingly feels that he should carry on to maybe try and spin something up. Of course, RB still have irons in the fire with Tom Manley up in 3rd at the moment, but of course will still yet need to take his pit stop. We're currently seeing from Jake Benham's POV, of course, with the penalties applied, Benham with a great chance of obtaining a P3 here at Suzuka in his first podium as a McLaren driver.
And that's exactly what he wants to do. His teammate Alfie Butcher is 3rd in the championship right now after a P3 result yesterday in China. 2 podiums in 2 races for the McLaren team would be amazing to walk away for in terms of their team standings. McLaren currently 3rd in the team standings, of course, with Alfie Butcher being the only point scorer for McLaren yesterday. In terms of the Oracle Red Bull Sim Racing team, currently 37 points in their championship order. But with that penalty going the way of Rasmussen and Jarno Opmeer being further down the order than he would have been hoping for, it seems to be little to few points that will walk away with this one.
Yep. Absolutely right. They now climb over the crest and through Spoon Curve once again. We are on lap 13 of 27. We're now at the halfway point, incidentally, because technically you could say lap 13 and a half at this point as they come out of Spoon Curve and then into the final sector where they'll meet 130R once more. Once more, again, it is Ismail Fassi who leads this contingent around. Lawrence watching every move he makes, with Jake Benham also following suit. More cars coming into the pits this time. It's Julian Klaffenbach who has come in, along with Joris Kroes and Tom Manley also coming in for Racing Bulls. Jonny Tormela is staying out on his set of medium tyres, really going long on this stint, so definitely trying something a little against the grain. Here is the Finn. So they head downhill through towards turn 1 once more. Benham not keen to make a move just yet, just watching everything unfold, just staying glued to the front two in front. Obviously, if they start battling, you never know. I could open a window for Jake Benham later in the race.
Yeah, Lawrence, though, just not seemingly able to get any closer to that rear diffuser of Ismail Fassi. The gap seemingly staying the same, lengths around the circuit, lap after lap, and just not able to break down that barrier. Obviously, we're talking about dirty air when you're close behind the car in front. That aero wash is not going to be useful around these fast-flowing circuits, such as Suzuka, especially through turns 3 to 7, the rhythm section that is labelled by the drivers. You need a lot of front-end commitment. You need those tyres to be in the best operating window and grip to be in your favour. So when following a car close behind, that all goes out the window.
Yeah, well, I can tell you at the moment that Ismail Fassi is currently 4.3 away from Nicolas Longuet as it stands. The gap now starting to once again develop. Obviously, they were as close coming out of the pits by approximately a second, but I think Ismail Fassi is not necessarily worried about the two in front because he knows that the penalties are going to stand at this stage. He's more concerned about the tyres and just making sure that they elongate and carry through to the end of the race. He knows that the front two are going to be handed penalties come the end of this one with the jump start that they had. More pit stops now being put into play with Jan Halliday and also Jonny Tormela finally removing those medium tyres. Alvaro Carreton is back in the pits for a second time and retires from the race. Not a welcome return for Alvaro Carreton. After jumping the start, he received 10 seconds, 2 3-second time penalties in concurrent. Now sees him out of the Japanese Grand Prix as they now climb the hill out of this next section now over the course of the top of the hill through to the Degners very shortly. Ronha now leads on track, but he's part of a 4-car contingent that is still yet to box as we ride on board with Nicolas Longuet. Obviously trying to reduce the damage as much as they can in terms of time lost through to this penalty, but I think they've definitely made great inroads here because they're nearly 5 seconds clear from those behind, and that as a result will help with cars further down the field.
Well, you mentioned tyre management just before, and that's a question that I've got running through my mind right now. Obviously, Freddie Rasmussen and Nicolas Longuet have been able to extend out such a large gap over Ismail Fassi and Otis Lawrence in behind, but how much of a strain has that had on their tyres right now? Those left-hand tyres must be screaming for mercy right now on those cars, and they need to be careful and take care of their tyres if they even want this hard compound tyre to make it to the end.
Yeah, well, on-track leader Thomas Ronha now in the pits now, so we'll serve his time, take those tyres off, and will then rejoin. Obviously, boxing later than most. Medium tyres now on for the Dutchman, and he'll now restore himself back out onto the grid. But you're so right, Kai, as Julian Klaffenbach sets the fastest lap of the race. Tom Manley reciprocates and takes it himself as well. But what we need to talk about is the fact that whilst you've got Fassi and Lawrence saving their tyres, it's the opposite end of the spectrum for the two that have the 10-second time penalties, that being Nicolas Longuet and Freddie Rasmussen.
Well, I think the last thing that Nicolas Longuet and Freddie Rasmussen are worrying about right now is their tyre management. They will throw everything they can at this race to try and extend out their gap. They can worry about the tyre degradation later on. As long as a puncture doesn't come into the question for them, which I don't think it will, because they didn't pit particularly early onto these hard compound tyres. The hard tyres, obviously the most durable out of the tyres that are available to these drivers.
It's more about how they're using the tyre,
exactly.
I think, more than anything else. But Otis Lawrence, still watching Fassi, that's his one objective. Keep an eye on the Ferrari. The gap has expanded, though, again. It's 5.8 seconds at the moment. So I've got to give credit where credit's due to Nicolas Longuet and Freddie Rasmussen. They're keeping this up. 5.3, not bad. Obviously need to do more than that, but at the very least, they they may even achieve points, I think, out of this, even if it is a lower top 10, though it may just fall outside of the scope.
No, I agree. Points is 100% a possibility here for Longuet and Rasmussen, as they have the pace to be up at the front end. And it's such a shame that they have these jump start penalties, because they only gain such a small amount off the line, but it's such a big price to pay. And the question is, what if they didn't have those penalties? Well, they would be miles out in front of anyone, and it would be a drag race between the two of them. But you have to go with the reality, which it is, of them having those 10-second penalties. So Longuet and Rasmussen eking out that gap, trying to push and recover its damage limitation at this point to try and finish in a point-scoring position. Ismail Fassi, though, will just be trying to take care of that Ferrari as much as possible.
Bold strategy play from Jarno Opmeer as well at the moment, going really long on this stint. At the moment, we've got 10 laps left to go in this race. Now, this is very similar to what we saw Jarno do in league racing not too long ago. If those of you tune in to the league racing broadcast that do happen across the globe, we do see Jarno, currently the sole driver, not yet pitting. In fact, no, he's not the sole one. John Evans also trying the same thing, but he is 3.5 seconds off the back of Opmeer as it stands. Otis Lawrence plugged again into the back of Ismail Fassi's Ferrari as they come out of Spoon, and then a little shake of the wheel as he finds the grip, ensuring that he's well adjusted for a run around 130R. I mean, we could see a move coming down through towards the Casio Triangle. Otis may not be afraid of making it, though I can't imagine he'll want to risk anything at this stage and wait for the long straight in towards turn 1 as they now hammer over the race curbs coming out of the final section. Out of turn 18 they will go, and Fassi looks like he might be under the cosh here as now Otis looks to storm down the long straight in front of the Japanese fans. They're going to go wheel to wheel. Otis responds now with a move into P5, and your net race leader here on lap 18.
Yeah, what I noticed there heading into the final chicane, that Lawrence had done a great job with his energy management, as he still had nearly 70% of his battery remaining that he could deploy and use to make his way past Ismail Fassi on that overtake mode down the main straight. Energy management is another big thing here around Suzuka. As we saw there, down the back straight towards 130R, Otis Lawrence deployed less battery because he was using the slipstream of the Ferrari in front instead of his battery deployment. He could then use that extra battery that he had saved over his competitor that was using it to defend, and it was a smooth sailing overtake.
Well, they've caught up with John Evans as well right now. Nicholas Longuet, well drilled, of course, as a racing driver, was actually John's teammate last season when driving for Ferrari. Of course, John Evans taking a peripheral role at the very top of Ferrari as well, alongside Ismail Fassi. Frederick Rasmussen watching Longuet as they now make their way down in towards the Casio Triangle, knows that he has to get in front of Evans' Ferrari here and now, because Evans is essentially a roadblock here and doing the favours for Ismail Fassi, it may seem. Bringing that delta down to ensure they don't get away. Longuet knows he has to make the move, because if he gets stuck any longer, it means all the hard work he's put in will ebb away, and they'll both pile drive their way through past John Evans, Nicholas Longuet and Rasmussen. Team orders clear from Ferrari for sure.
I'll put my hands up and give him a round of applause. John Evans did his best there to hold up the two racing drivers and very much hindered them through the Casio Triangle chicane there. But down the main straight with the DRS enabled, nothing that Evans could have done. A sitting duck down the main straight as Longuet and Longuet and Rasmussen just fly by in behind Opmeer now. Opmeer might want to get off these hard tyres sooner rather than later, as Longuet and Rasmussen on average are nearly 2 seconds a lap faster.
To be fair, I don't think it did too much to the gap between Longuet, Rasmussen, and of course Otis Lawrence down in 5th place, because it currently sits at 5.9 to 6 seconds. As now we see Joris Krozen having a very uneasy exit out of the hairpin bend, and he's currently rubbing side by side here at the moment, I believe, with Ruben Pedreño. They're going wheel to wheel through 200R up towards Spoon Curve. Brilliant from Pedreño. Late on the brakes, hot on the pedals. Through Spoon he goes and moves his way into 9th place for Aston Martin. Lovely move. Next on his list will be Danny Berejnay, but I'm not sure he's going to get away from Joris Krozen that easily. The Haas still very much in proximity, but the gap now started to largen as Pedreño settles in his new position as they head down now in towards the braking zone once more. The rear light flashing again, instigating the recharging of battery here in these cars as they head downhill to once again start yet another lap. Lap 20 of 27, 7 to go. More movements as we now finally see Jarno Opmeer come into the pits. More movements further back as well. Looks like Jan Halliday is also going to come into the fight as well by that same token as they come through turn 1. So Opmeer now looking to jump onto a fresh set of medium tyres, it seems. Very late in the day, late in the session, but he will be the fastest man on track.
But he also has 5 seconds to the car in front of him of Joni Tormela, and in the space of 7 laps, that's going to be a big order to pull down.
Not a lot you can do, is there?
Yeah, Opmeer, he wasn't in a great position coming into this race, and throughout this race found himself in difficult positions. He was saying in his interview with Nicola after qualifying that he was going to have to try something completely different to maybe throw a spanner into the works. Oh, and very
Thomas
close to
Ronhaar.
contact.
Yeah, Thomas Ronhaar up the inside and has now managed to find his way through, but I got to say that looked very risque indeed. A late dive coming into the hairpin at turn 11. Well, whether it was a clean move, I'm not quite sure. The stewards might look at it, but Ronhaar through nonetheless. It got oh so tight at the heavy braking zone. I said that can instigate moves here at this circuit at Suzuka. A daring display from the Mercedes man. He's back inside the top 10. Of course, on the medium tyres here for this latter stint, so expect him to be fast. Julian Klaffenbach looking to try and make some gains as well, as the tempers now start to fray. Here at this point is now Freddie Rasmussen and Nicolas Longuet look to duel over the on-track lead. It's Rasmussen back in front on lap 21, and the gap is nearly 8 seconds. Here right now, Kai, 8 seconds between Longuet and Otis Lawrence. They couldn't make it 10, could they?
Well, if you think about it, it's 8 seconds between Longuet and Lawrence, but it's even more to Freddie Rasmussen, as it will be just half a second between Longuet and Rasmussen right now. 7.7 between the Williams and the Alpine driver. Another half a second to the race leader. So it is very possible that if these drivers don't battle too much, that the race leader could hold on.
I get the theme, not certainly suggested. Well, obviously they're not teammates, so it's not possible to conceive that they can necessarily manufacture this. But these are two experienced drivers who know if they were to battle, it would be futile for both their races. So better yet, utilize the power of DRS and grow the gap as much as possible.
Well, both of them are mature enough to know that 2 cars is faster than 1 to try and extend out, trade DRS until those dying embers. That's when you can battle it out for position. But if they're able to establish the gap early on, they'll be able to have that time to battle and not have to worry about the gap. Remember, Otis Lawrence doesn't have DRS to his advantage, so there's nothing he can do to try and break down the gap to Nicolas Longuet other than try and preserve his tyres and maybe use any life left towards the end. But Rasmussen and Longuet, if they work together, they could pull off the impossible and actually make this work.
And it'll be a 2-horse race to decide who could be the race winner here of the Japanese Grand Prix. Of course, we have the real thing happening in Suzuka right now this weekend. Of course, it is qualifying day for them. We are, at this point, in race day here in the F1 Sim Racing World Championship. We're here on lap 22 of 27. Nicolas Longuet now looking to rise above the adversity of that penalty at the start of this sensational race, we have to say. Frederick Rasmussen looking to do the same as well. Once again, the gap has expanded by a little bit. 8.2 seconds now. Another 10th added on against Otis Lawrence. But we'll see whether this can continue. Just how are their tyres operating at the moment? I can't imagine it's easy out there.
I have no idea how they even have life left in these tyres after the blistering lap times that we've seen Rasmussen and Longuet putting down onto the circuit lap after lap after lap. They're doing an amazing job to even be in contention right now.
I can tell you it was half a second over the last lap between Freddie Rasmussen and Otis Lawrence. And of course, Rasmussen currently leads the race. So if they're able to do that in the remaining laps, it is possible that they can outwit this 10-second time penalty that hinders them both right now as we watch Ruben Pedreño charging down the back straight and through towards 130R once more. Coming into the braking zone at the Casio Triangle as well as they look to concertina up before heading down through towards turn 1. It's getting really constrained here, which doesn't help the cause of those inside the top 10 looking to close up to Rasmussen and Longuet.
No, not at all. And you may be looking at the delta, seeing 8.3 seconds between Otis Lawrence and Nicolas Longuet, but that up to the leader is nearly 9 seconds now. So Freddie Rasmussen and Nicolas Longuet have give or take a second and a half that they need to pull out in the space of 4 laps. And if they keep up the pace that they've been putting down on the circuit over the course of these last few laps, it was a 29.837 from Freddie Rasmussen on the last tour of the circuit. Otis Lawrence, a 130.0. So that was another 2 tenths that went in the favor of these two out in front. I'm gobsmacked, George.
Well, if you're Nicolas Longuet right now, do you reduce the risk and just maybe hold position in P2? Because the problem is, if he starts battling with Freddie and they lose more lap time and delta just by battling over P1, they both could lose so much more.
I don't think that's a thought in the mind of Nicolas Longuet right now. I think the main focus is extending that 10-second gap first. Once they extend that 10-second gap, that's when they can worry and maybe start thinking about battling between the two of them for position. But for the moment, the main goal is get that 10-second margin.
Yeah, well, it has to be ridden off first, and they haven't done that yet. At the moment, it is still Otis Lawrence that will take the race win if it stays like this. We are on lap 23 of 27. Plenty of laps to go for things to change, as now they cross the line once more. Last lap for Freddie Rasmussen was a 1:29.944. It was 1,000th of a second less for Nicolas Longuet, as they're still 1 and 2 in tandem right now. Otis Lawrence, of course, will cross the line by equal measure. His last lap, a 1:29.955. He was still slower than Freddie Rasmussen and Nicolas Longuet. It was only by 100th, but still slower than the top two. It is still Rasmussen and Longuet, though. They are your front two on track, but a net standpoint, it is Otis Lawrence who will inherit that race win. Ishmael Fassi, though, glued in 7 tenths apart from Otis Lawrence. Remember, we have all those on the medium tyres too. Joris Krozen is inside the top 10. So is Alfie Butcher, Thomas Ronhaar, and they're all in touching distance of one another, looking to move up the order, and they've got 3 or so laps left to go to fight for the remaining positions.
3 more laps. This is the crunch time. Of course, Otis Lawrence has the tyre advantage over our 2 leader. The lap time's now starting to even out between the 3 of them, so not really any discrepancies on the previous tour of the circuit, and that's exactly what Otis Lawrence needs to do. He doesn't need to go faster, he just needs to not be slower. If he can match the pace of the race leaders, this still goes his way. Of course, he has Ishmael Fassi in behind him. Give or take, it's 8 tenths between them, so not a huge worry at the moment. But we know DRS is strong down the main straight.
Yeah, Longuet's battery not overly full at the moment, 34%, so obviously he needs to try and restore it as best he can. He's currently trying to use the slipstream here on Freddie Rasmussen to get a little bit closer. Again, we'll look at the lap times last time out. Freddie Rasmussen this time in the 130s, 130.053 against the 129.9 of Nicolas Longuet, who still remains in second. I will say this, Otis Lawrence was quicker over the last lap as we lose Tom Manley from the race, and that was RB's ace inside the top 10. Who has now retired. So that is our second retirement from the race, Carreton and Manley. So that now leaves Joni Tormler for RB. And of course, from a Williams standpoint as well, Nico Longuet going it alone in the final 3 laps of magic we're going to be bringing you here at Suzuka.
Yeah, a yellow flag out in sector 3.
Rasmussen! Oh my goodness, Rasmussen making a mistake. It seems coming through the Degner corners. They got it ever so wrong, and Longuet, pouncing on it, is now taking the lead, and the gap now extends to 3.1.
3.1 and 10 seconds back to Otis Lawrence. So Longuet in position to take a second victory out of the last 2 races here at Suzuka. 2022 was his last race victory. Freddie Rasmussen, no emotion on his face, nothing new there, but a rare mistake from the champion.
It looks like a slip-up coming in towards the Degners, and the frustration clear on the face of Freddie Rasmussen. I don't know what on earth happened to him. Just seemed for a split second that something went awry, and he lost his place at the top of the order, and now it's in the hands of Nicolas Longuet, and he's surpassed that 10-second gap. I think he might have. It's very close. In fact, I think it's coming down as Alfie Butcher gets a 3-second time penalty for corner cutting. We're on the penultimate lap of the race, folks. This has been bizarro world right now. We're watching them fly down through towards turn 1. Butcher and Krozen going at it over 8th place. Butcher manages to move into 8th, but that 3-second time penalty damning for the McLaren driver as well.
Well, the gap has came down ever so slightly now. Not quite sure what happened there, but Otis Lawrence is 8 seconds behind the race leader, so still has the race win in his hands right now. But what will Ismail Fassi and Otis Lawrence do here? We're having a look at the replay of what happened to Freddie Rasmussen. Rasmussen also back in the pack in real time as Ismail Fassi makes his way past. Rasmussen just tumbling down the order. What is happening here to Rasmussen? Is there a puncture? Is there a problem? Because this isn't regular fashion for the Red Bull driver.
And we've lost Julian Klaffenbach. He's gone. Frederick Rasmussen now at the bottom of the pack. He's gone. The header's lost. Goodness me. And it must be, is it a puncture? We're not quite sure, but obviously that is very damning news for Red Bull. Your race winner from yesterday has now fallen afoul. Otis Lawrence here on the penultimate lap of the race, 7.6 seconds away from Nicolas Longuet, who tried ever so hard to bridge that 10-second gap to avoid the penalty, ruining his chances of a victory in this race. But it looks like Otis could be on hand to lay claim to a first win for Alpine and also his first of the season here at Suzuka.
Yeah. Not quite sure what's happened here. These dying stages of the race have completely lit up and everything has been thrown out the window. This is what I said to you, George. Suzuka isn't won by having the best plan. It's by adapting to what the race throws at you. And that's exactly what Otis Lawrence has managed to do. Freddie Rasmussen, yesterday's race winner, yesterday's pole sitter, today's pole sitter, retires from the race.
Retires from the race, the championship leader. It's all fallen apart. Red Bull are not going to score a single point in this second outing because Jarno Opmeer is currently down in 12th place. Of course, has fresher tyres of anybody and is 3/10 away from Jan Halliday at the moment. Nicolas Longuet comes out to the hairpin. Jake Benham on for an incredible first podium for McLaren.
Yeah, exactly what he needs. We'll have to keep an eye on the gap between Jake Benham and Nicolas Longuet coming across the line. It's going to be so tight there as it's currently just on the border of 10 seconds. This last lap is going to be so important for Jake Benham. 50% battery available left in the car. He's going to have to push it right to the line if he wants to pick up this podium position. Nicolas Longuet, though, you'll finish first on track, but not in the end.
No, Nicolas Longuet coming out of the Casio Triangle chicane. He tried ever so hard to bridge the gap. Will cross the line anyway. He is first on track, but Otis Lawrence here at Suzuka. He's GOATIS once more. Otis Lawrence, your race winner here at Suzuka. Does it in style. He forced the gap on Ismail Fassi, took it all the way to the end. The Welshman shouts, Cymru bid. It's a win for Otis Lawrence. And the Alpine sim racing team, their first of the season, and Otis Lawrence's first for Alpine itself. Magic here!
That is exactly how much it means to these drivers. Otis Lawrence, it was disappointment yesterday, but redemption day for the Alpine team as everybody is elated for the 17-year-old who steps out of his simulator and walks away victorious.
Well, he really rose to the occasion last year, didn't he, folks? The youngest winner in F1 sim racing history at Jeddah last season. He's come back again, a winner once more, this time for Alpine. He did it in style. And everyone from Alpine enjoyed that. They came here with a squadron to take on the Red Bull team. I can tell you that Jake Benham successfully got himself a podium, his first for McLaren this campaign. Very tight, 36 thousandths of a second was the gap between 4th and 5th. Longuet doing enough to at least claim 4th place. Ismail Fassi, a podium for Ferrari as well. They take away some big points here in this extravaganza. But the big story has to be Red Bull here, Kai. Going from heroes yesterday, they had an exceptional pole position after Freddie's efforts in Q3 earlier today, but it's all for naught. That 10-second penalty off the back of the jump start, bringing an end to their chances of their race win.
Yeah, a big 0 on the board in terms of points scored for Red Bull. Maybe not the strongest team that everyone thought that they were. Maybe the champions are crackable and showing their vulnerabilities as Jarno Opmeer and Freddie Rasmussen both fall from grace and finish outside of the top 10. Jarno Opmeer in 11th and a retirement for Freddie Rasmussen finishes him in 15th position. But George, what a race from Nicolas Longuet. We can't breeze over this. 4th position, may have been just off the podium by such a small gap. But when I saw that 10-second pop up on the screen, I thought that was race over, full stop.
Well, I must say, the way he was collating Delta, I think, at the front, I thought for a split second we genuinely believed that the 10-second penalty could have been undone. It wasn't to be, but I think at this moment in time he will be happy with that 4th place.
I feel he has to have a smile on his face, jumping out the simulator. I'm going to peek over my shoulder, seeing if I can see any emotion coming from the Williams crew. Well, either way, it's a sigh of relief. It's a head in the hands moment. There's a lot of emotions going on over there for Nicolas Longuet, and you can't blame him at all. He's turned a bad situation into the best possible.
Well, there we have it. Immense drama off the back of that race, and we do have our winner standing by. He's with Nicola right now.
Yes, he is. Otis Lawrence. How on earth do you feel that was such an awesome celebration from you?
Oh, it's amazing. Oh, my goodness me. I've lost my voice. I've completely lost my voice. I don't even know what to say, man. This team is just fantastic. Everything in the comms, you know, the team, the whole team, just look at them, man. They're just insane. But yeah, I'm just lost for words. I'm so happy.
I mean, when I spoke to you yesterday, I mean, you had a bit of a tricky day yesterday, but here you are today, full-blown smile on your face. It was so nice to see the whole team come running up to you. How did it feel in that moment?
Oh, it was amazing. I think my dad even ran up to me, but yeah, the team's just fantastic. The whole strategy of this race was just insane. The communication was just unbelievable. Like, I don't even know what to say, man. It's just unbelievable.
I think what people love watching about you is because you are such an openly emotional person. And I think even if you're not doing well, to even when you are doing well, it's like those of the viewers at home love seeing your reactions. And the fact that you're here at DreamHack gives you forgiveness for being as loud as you can possibly be.
Yeah, I mean, thank you all for coming. This is unreal that Formula One organised this to allow us to just drive like this on a game. It's just such a surreal feeling, you know, to represent Formula One and Alpine. So I want to thank everybody, and yeah, I hope that you enjoyed the celebration.
Otis, honestly, absolutely over the moon for you. How do you celebrate this evening? But then also, well, celebrations obviously, but then we go again tomorrow.
Well, that's if my voice comes back. I've completely lost it, but yeah, we just got to focus for tomorrow now.
Rest your voice, rest up, do a little celebration, because you're allowed to do it.
I don't know.
I'll let you. It'll be fine. Otis, congratulations on your P1. Tom, back to you.
Thank you very much, Nicola. That is why we love watching F1 sim racing, when we see what it means to these drivers, and full elation. Come and join us at the desk. George Morgan, Kai Bacchini, a brilliant call on that race. And as you alluded to, so many things to talk about and break down, because I literally, the ebb and flow of who is going to win this race. Otis, his second year in F1 sim racing. He got his first win last year in Saudi Arabia, then in Abu Dhabi. Now he's a 3-time winner. So good to see, isn't it, George?
Oh, yeah. And I think, I mean, I don't have the words to really comprehend on what we just witnessed. I have to tell you, I mean, who'd have thought that we would see jump start penalties dished out right at the beginning of the race?
Great start. Yes, let's start at the start. What on earth was going on there?
I mean, myself and Kai were scratching our heads as well, because we looked at it, and Caraton also fell foul to it, and he ended up picking up another 2-3 second time penalties on top of that. His race was ran and over. But yeah, Freddie and Nicolas Longuet, I want to give them credit though, first and foremost, because most drivers may have turned around and said that's an unsurmountable amount of time to recover. But they kept going, and I have to tell you that it got to a point approximately 75% to 80% into the race where me and Kai started to believe that they could do something with this. They were DRSing each other, very smart, working together as opposed to just battling, forfeiting more delta. Instead, they acquired themselves and pushed forward. And you never know, on another day, it could have ended very differently.
Well, importantly for Nicolas Longuet, picking up more points in what is a 12-round event for the 2026 F1 Sim Racing Championship. Let's have a look at the highlights. But I want both of you to talk us through this, because so much to get into, Kai. It was this crazy start where you thought, maybe this is all over then.
Well, as George said, as soon as the penalties popped up on the screen, I thought it was race over for Freddie Rasmussen and Nicolas Longuet, and there was no point in them even giving it a good go. But that's exactly what they did. They proved me wrong there. They still had a good battle between between them, as we said, working together, switching positions, using the DRS to their advantage. That's how Longe and Rasmussen were able to get that gap all sorted out. But Otis Lawrence and Ismail Fassi in the early stages had a bit of a battle between themselves, probably aided the other two drivers to get away, but in the end, track position is key. We said it multiple times throughout the race, and in the end, Otis Lawrence being in front of his Ferrari competitor, that's what won him the race.
Yeah, it was all about the DRS swapping, wasn't it? Again, we witnessed also the Otis Lawrence manoeuvre on Ismail Fassi. He incidentally managed to actually gap Fassi quite effectively in the second half of the race. This was the moment where John Evans came into play as well. Obviously a back marker, essentially getting caught up in all of the fracas, and then of course allowing Nico and Frederick Rasmussen to carry onwards. But obviously John Evans, I think, also maybe perhaps slightly helping his teammate out, Ismail Fassi, in trying to close the gap just so that they could reduce the possibility of Rasmussen and Longe taking this all the way to the end. Obviously, the big thrills and spills was Rasmussen going off, and this was the particular moment. Longe taking the lead, Rasmussen reappearing before toppling down the field. Longe crossing the line first, but Otis, just due to that penalty, your race winner here at DreamHack and at Suzuka.
And Nicola, Otis said, just this team is fantastic. It's lovely to be a part of or to see that.
Yeah, it's a collective, isn't it? It's not just Otis as a driver. It's those in his ear. It's his co-driver. It's his teammate. It's everyone behind the scenes helping them along the way. And that was such a joy that he gives a shout out to every single person. I mean, I love watching Otis when he has those moments and he just overly celebrates. And I think this is the perfect place for this to happen here at DreamHack, because he can just scream at the top of his lungs and he's totally free to do that. In a quiet studio, maybe not so much, but here at DreamHack, he could go for his life, and that's what I wanted to see, and we saw it.
Yeah, our next event will be in a studio, so we'll have to contain that, but you can't contain a driver like Otis Lawrence. Jarno Opmeer, as you can see on the screen right now, we didn't think Red Bull picked up any points, but apparently he was finished in P10 and picking up fastest lap as well. You can never doubt the Dutchman to secure more points, which will be important in our Constructors' Championship. But shout out, Jan Halliday, his debut, picks up points in his first ever race.
Yeah, and I was quite pleased to see Jan in qualifying doing what he did. Of course, eventually managing to lift himself inside that top 10. Just a point as well on Jarno's strategy. Of course, he boxed later than anybody else. And it was a smart play on his part. It's not something that we haven't seen before from Jarno, just testing the water, trying something a little bit different. We did say at the top of the race portion of the show that there is a possibility that we could see some drivers breaking the spectrum of the traditional medium hard lap 10 to 12 and 14 to 19 on hard medium.
And I wouldn't doubt him as a three-time champion. He knows what he's doing.
Well, he's
let the man cook, George.
He's like Einstein where it comes to strategy.
And part of it is in his head. It's the team as well. You will have seen on the screen there Freddie Rasmussen picking up a point. That's not from the race. That's for finishing on pole, going from earlier on today. So the points are added up, and I think when we'll get the driver standings in just a moment, it's just phenomenal. You mentioned about the strategy. Coming in at lap 8, I think it was, there was a dive in. Of course, our winner, Otis, went in. You've got to be bold in F1 sim racing, haven't you, Kai?
You do. You need to take risks, and that's exactly what separates the great from the good. Who is able to take those risks, take it on board, take a spin of the wheel, maybe a little bit of a gamble to get yourself into a more fortunate position, and that is exactly what Otis Lawrence was able to do in his own favor and get himself into the race lead and also take home that race win. Silver lining there for Red Bull. They do take home 1 point as Jarno Opmeer finishes in 10th. Not on the track, but finishes in 10th overall, as Thomas Gau, after the race, unfortunately, was awarded a 5-second penalty, which demotes him from 9th down to 14th.
Oh.
So what could have been 2 points turns into 0.
I was just about to shout out Haas. We will talk about Haas. I manifested some great results for Aston Martin today with this top that I've gone for. I didn't
You
actually.
did. You planned that,
It was all I brought up to Birmingham. This top. But Aston Martin picking up both points for both drivers, which is great to see. Haas doing a fantastic job. Not one of the teams with the biggest budget to spend, and they're getting results, and hopefully that will put them in good stead for the team's championship. Championship. Can we have a look at the driver standings? Yes, we can. Otis, Lawrence, wow, what a difference one race makes there.
Wow.
I'm still waiting to find out what happened to Freddie Rasmussen. We'll get information as soon as we have it. But there you go, Otis, Lawrence. And it's nice to see, after all of the sporting endeavours for Wales over the last few weeks and months, George.
Don't say that in front of George's face.
It's been a painful week, Tom.
It's been painful for sport, but look at that. This sport of F1 sim racing, Otis is at the top, and Ismail Fassi obviously fighting after China to get back on top and maybe get his first championship. Let's have a look at the Constructors' Championship then. What does that do? Alpine. Wow. At one point we're thinking, hey, maybe is this the right... Oh, day 2. Yeah, absolutely in the mix.
Yeah, I mean, at Alpine, we said, didn't we, coming into this, that they were the main contenders potentially to take on Red Bull this season. I mean, we know the reputation that Jarno and Freddie convey in this series, but Alpine, leaving no stone unturned with Otis Lawrence, and Danny Berejnay is always going to be on hand and available to pick up points through the course of the season. So yeah, it really does set the stage for a mouth-watering rest of the season. Of course, we've got more coming tomorrow with Bahrain. McLaren, got to give Jake Benham credit. First
we haven't talked about him.
Yeah.
Get into it, McLaren.
First podium with McLaren. How about that?
Oh, that is sensational. And a driver that's been there or thereabouts, been a number 1 or number 2 driver with Mercedes, gets an opportunity at McLaren. Not so good for Alfie Butcher. I saw that penalty towards the end. Any other takeaways from you, Nicola? Obviously, the fans were loving all of the action today.
The fans have absolutely loved it. We've absolutely loved it, because actually me and Tom went and sat within the crowd to go and watch it on the big screens, because we loved it. So we're just it felt like every few laps we were like,
something else is happening.
Taking in a moment of drama.
Yeah.
But it's like the penalties that have been thrown out has made this a really interesting second round. So now, as we approach tomorrow in Bahrain, it's anyone's game. Whereas this morning, around quali, we wouldn't have been saying this.
No, we were just talking Red Bull, pole to victory, another pole in the quali. Who's the biggest loser of today's action that we've seen? I want to give them the chance to come back tomorrow in Bahrain. Is there a driver that you can pinpoint that maybe didn't go away? Would you say Freddie Rasmussen?
You read my mind, I think, on that one. I'm actually intrigued to know what happened, to be honest, because we sort of caught it, sort of in the background of when he originally went off. We did see the replay, but I'm curious as to why he kind of continuously dropped. So the big question mark is, was there a puncture? Did he overuse the tyres through the course? Because obviously they were trying to break the toe or break the train or elongate the gap to 10 seconds plus so that they can reduce the damage that penalty was going to do. So whether they just overworked the tyres and Freddie just unfortunately received a puncture, I'm not quite sure. He did get on the curbs quite aggressively, so could have been the case.
Difficult question to ask, because I want a different answer from every one of you.
Oh, no.
Here we go. It's about to happen. Driver of the day, in your opinion. Nicola, I'm going to tee it up for you perfectly.
Thank you.
Who's driver of the day?
Thank you coming to me first. I really appreciate that.
Surely there's only one answer.
All right, mate. So it's got to go to Otis, isn't it? I mean, seeing that gap, I know Freddie was really building up that gap, and Longo were really building up that gap to possibly make that penalty mean nothing. But Otis kept within that moment, and he just kept his head level. He kept it straight. Absolutely smashed it with the best reaction I've seen.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's got to go to Otis.
One for Otis. Kai, obviously we'd like to maybe say Otis, but is there another driver?
You can say Otis.
No, I'll go someone different. I'll go
Those
someone
weren't the
different.
rules, Nicola. Those were not the rules. But
do we have to pick someone different? I didn't realise.
That's why I was teeing you up perfectly for Otis. Kai, come on, there is another driver that's impressed maybe.
He was completely against the odds in this race, was on the back foot from the get-go. Nicholas Longay to even recover for a P4. He was 36 thousandths away from a podium. Previous race winner around this circuit, used his experience and knowledge of the track. Maintaining those tyres whilst keeping up that pace is impeccably impressive. Nicholas Longay gets driver of the day for me.
Oh, I love that. Anyone for you, George?
I'm going to go with Jake Benham. I think getting that first podium for McLaren, huge moment for them, and they've actually taken back-to-back podiums now because Butcher had his yesterday. So far so good. They're sort of like the quiet underdogs in the first half of the season.
Do not write them off. That's brilliant. I would say Ismail Fassi getting back up.
We've covered the top four.
We've covered the top 4. Done. It was easy enough to do. Listen, we've had so much fun here on day 2 of Event 1 in F1 Sim Racing 2026. Here is your winner from Japan. Guess what? We will find out if he can do it all again tomorrow as we come back to race around Bahrain.